Mount Oliver is a lofty Front Range peak sitting on the boundary of Banff National Park and the Ghost River Wilderness area that I had been interested in ever since reading Rick Collier's trip report from 1991. Oliver is way off-grid, located on the eastern edge of Banff National Park over the headwaters of North Burnt Timber Creek and the Ghost River. Due to its remote location, it sees few visitors and is only clearly visible from other remote peaks such as Apparition and Psychic Peak. I was thankful to have some beta from Cornelius Rott, especially details around a trail up North Burnt Timber Creek. We would utilize this trail, biking the first 5 kilometers before hiking up a rudimentary trail up the creek to a northeast outlier ridge, leading in turn to the east ridge of Mount Oliver. We followed this east abutment to the east face before ascending moderate terrain to the top. On return, we descended a northeast valley before hiking back out along the creek and finally biking the last 5 kilometers to the parking area, much of it uphill. After camping at the trailhead overnight, Sarah McLean and I were up early, and by 05:30 we were pedaling past a locked gate and 2 large signs. Neither indicated we were breaking any laws, so we kept biking right past them. Despite being stuck in a low gear, Sarah set a good pace for the 5-kilometer approach bike ride. After dropping the bikes at a large encampment surrounded by solar-charged electrical fencing, we continued up North Timber Creek on a decent trail. Pretty much seen it.
And it never ended up being a problem, but I know you have plans for next week.
Very cool. This was my first scramble with Sarah, and to be honest, I was worried that I would slow her down a bit. Even though I'm sure I did, she was polite enough not to mention it. Already at 8:30 in the morning, we arrived at the ascent slopes of the northeast ridge, leading eventually to Mount Oliver, which we still couldn't actually see at this point. We weren't exactly sure what we were looking at, but figured it would make sense once we got a bit higher on this outlier ridge, and we were correct. By the time we stepped onto the ridge proper, the route started making sense again, with Mount Oliver and its east abutment ridge clearly visible ahead. The scrambling along the northeast ridge was pretty straightforward, and we bailed around difficulties as needed, and soon we were on the infamous sidewalk ridge leading towards Mount Oliver. Yeah, that's a bit of a drop, eh?
Keep an eye on it. Pops out whenever it goes in the water.
Kind of a cool pinnacle right behind your head. For the most part, the scrambling up the east ridge and face of Mount Oliver was around SC6 or moderate scrambling. Capture the moment. Yay! Woohoo! Hey, we can see stuff.
Yeah.
We were happy to negotiate the last few steps to the summit of Oliver just as the air temperature started to rise around 10:30 in the morning. Lucky. Views were somewhat limited due to smoke, but nearby valleys and peaks were visible, including Revenant, Psychic, and Stony Peak. Being the 5th recorded ascent party in 40 years was pretty cool, and Sarah was happy that even waiting 3 years hadn't changed her position in the summit register. Walking back along the sidewalk east of Abutment Ridge was the most entertaining part of the trip for me. It felt like a stroll in the sky. For descent back down to North Burnt Timber Creek, we decided to follow Cornelius's line down a northeast valley situated off the northeast abutment ridge we descended on approach. The hike back down North Burnt Timber Creek was pleasant despite the sun's gaining strength. Bugs were manageable as long as we kept moving and stayed out of the creek where they became downright ferocious and mean.
Yeah, did we come down here?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. On the rock.
By 1500 hours, we were back at the bikes and pedaling our way back to the trailhead. Sarah had a heck of a time with her stuck lower gear, but she gamely continued pedaling long after I would have been crying, or at the very least walking. I really enjoyed this front range scramble and would highly recommend it to anyone looking to get off the beaten path and onto a much more rudimentary one.